Today we're going to replace this old hollow core door that's in our house here on Sanibel Island, because it's just an old plain door. We just wanted something a little fancier, so we're going to replace this old door. So the first thing we're going to do is score out around these hinges, and then take the screws out and take the door off. We're going to score out around these hinges and then unscrew them out, because we're going to put in new hinges also. If you are going to reuse the same hinges, you could just unscrew them off the door or take the pin out of the middle, but since we're putting new hinges on, we're going to replace these. We're scoring the paint first, because these have been painted over several times, so that way we can pull these off without messing up the paint too bad. And we're going to do this for all three hinges. I'm also making sure I use gloves because my wife yells at me if I don't.
No, don't say that.
No, I'm just using gloves because if I don't, make sure I cut my fingers. These aren't really cut-proof gloves, but they help, just so we don't cut ourselves. And just using a regular utility knife for this. So here's another tip. Make sure you save these screws that you take out of the other ones. The new hinges come with screws, but they may not have the same size screw. So always make sure you save them. You may not need to use them, but it's a good idea just to hang on to them just in case. I removed all the screws except for the very last middle one here in the middle hinge, because that will support the weight of the door. Then once I take that off, be careful because it will come off very quickly, and that way we don't drop it too much when we do that. Now we're going to take this door downstairs and use it as a template to put the hinges and the knob and draw out the hole for the knob on our new door. I'm also going to remove the old doorknob and the old hinges from the door so that I can use this as the old door as a template for our new door. Now we've got our door ready. I'm going to put the old door on top of the new door. I figured out that's the side I want is the front, and that way we can trace out the holes and stuff for it, and then we're going to use another tool to drill out the holes. So now I'm just going to trace out the holes. So I'm just going to mark whereabouts this is going to go. It doesn't have to be too precise. And then we're going to mark out the spots for the hinges. We're mostly just concerned about tops. We'll make sure we get it right in the right spot. We'll trace them out with the actual hinge in a minute. We're just going to mark these just so we kind of know thereabouts where they're going to go, so that we can take the old door off. We removed the old door, so now we're ready to start drilling our holes for the knobs, and then we're going to chisel out for the hinges. We're going to use this template that I got a few years ago to help us as a guide to drill out the holes for the knobs. So we just put it on, and then you just use 2 screws and screw it into the side. Now we're going to drill out the holes using these hole saws that came with the kit. I got the kit a few years back. I believe there's one on Amazon. We'll post a link to one if we can find it similar. It's got 2 different sizes. This size, which is like a 2 1/8, and there's a smaller size for the lock on the side. So now we're just going to drill these out. This is a solid core door, so as you're drilling at the hole, it's going to take a few minutes, so don't be in a big hurry. Now on a hollow core door, this would just take a few seconds to drill through, but since this is a solid core door, it's going to take a little bit, so we'll be back to you in a second. We've got our hole done for our lock. Now we're going to drill the hole for the side catch, it's called. I'm not going to use the template that I had for this because I sat a little too far over, so I'd already traced out the one from the old lock, so we're just going to drill this one kind of by hand in the middle. Using another smaller hole saw that this came with, I don't remember the exact size for the lock on the side. This one came with the template, but I think it's just a standard like inch size or something like that. And we're just going to keep drilling until it goes all the way through to the hole we made for the top lock. I'm want to switch over to this corded drill because my old DeWalt drill is probably about shot there. So this one's a whole lot more powerful, so we'll switch over to that. Now we're through. Now we're going to trace out the hinges, and then we're going to use our rasp to chisel out the correct hole for the hinge. We're going to do this for all 3 of our hinges. Now I'm going to mortise out the spots for the hinges, so I'm actually going to turn the door over because we're going to go from the other side. Now we're going to take our wood chisel, this one's also a rasp also, and we're going to just chisel out around our line. To be on the safe side, we're just going to put our hinge flush at the top and just kind of trace around the back side. So we don't want it to get it too deep, but we don't want it too shallow either. Okay, now we've got our hinge mitered out, so we're just going to screw it in with the screws that they provided. Just want to make sure it sits good and flush with the sides here. Now we're going to screw the new door in and see if we need to do any adjusting after we screwed it up. Now we're going to try to get one screw in here just to kind of hold it up so we can get it up just a little bit higher. Also use some small shims I had just to kind of shim the door up just a little bit, just so we can get it in just the right spot. Also, something helpful is I have this little trim puller, and you can kind of use it as a lever to kind of lift the door up just a little bit. So we got the door in. It should in theory fit, but it's slightly wider than our other door. And this jamb is settled a little bit, so it's catching right along here. So we're gonna take a chisel, try just to chisel out some of this. This all needs to be painted anyway, just to try to get the door just to close. It's only hanging up right there towards this bottom part. So that worked. So now we're ready to go. So we're gonna have to sand this, of course, to get it real good and smooth for when we paint it. And I took out a little chunk with the thing, so it just kind of chipped out. So we're gonna have to nail it back in with some brad nails and then sand everything real smooth for when we paint it. This needed to be painted anyway, so it's not a huge deal, but just a little bit more work than I anticipated. But that's how all home improvement projects tend to be. At least the door shuts now. This is a Jeld Wen door that we got from Lowe's. Turns out really, really nice. Happy with the door so far. So we'll see how it goes in the future. Now we've got chisel out the spot for our door latch. So we just slide it in the hole that we drilled earlier and just kind of trace around it. Because it needs to sit flush with the door. We got this chiseled out, so now we're going to screw our lock on. Now we just need to make sure that it's going to close all the way, and it does. So now we can put the rest of our lock on. One other caution to people, as we were drilling this out from the other side, it split this in the back, so we're going to have to glue this on. So if I did this again, I would drill about halfway through and then turn the door over and then drill this side the other half to keep this from splitting. So I'm going to have to take the piece that chipped out and actually just glue it on with some wood glue. Then we're going to sand, after the wood glue dries, then we'll sand it and paint it. Got our 2 coats of paint on the door, so now we're ready to put our lock in. First part we're going to do is the lock part. I don't know what it's called, the exact term for it, but it just slides into the hole on the side. So for the lock set, you just follow all the instructions that come with your lock set. This is one we got off Amazon. It has it already attached. It's a little different than some other locks I've put in, but this one's already has it like the handle attached. So we just kind of slide it in. This side was where some of the wood had chipped off, so we kind of puttied it, and I put a little spackle in there just to smooth it out and get it as good as we could. The little plate for the lock will cover most of it, so you won't really see it, but we just wanted to just get it as smooth as possible. So now we're going to put in the lock part for the lock. And you just line it up. Then we use the 2 screws it came with to screw the sides of the lock together. This lock's a little different. It has a plate that covers the brown part. Usually they screw through the back, through the gold part on the lock. But this one just has one that goes in and covers it and snaps on. Just snaps on, and then the handle just goes in and snaps as well. And we're done. The final step is putting on the strike plate that the lock clicks into. We tried to use the existing one that was on the door, but this one needs to sit a little bit lower. So I'm just going to mark out where I need to chisel out here, and then just a little bit on the bottom so that the door will latch. We've chiseled out our section here, so we're now ready to just put our strike plate on. So now the door's ready to go. It catches a little at the top, just barely, when we go to close it, but it's fine once it's actually past that part. So this doorway is settled maybe just a little bit over the years. So it catches just a hair, but the door really turned out good. We're really happy with it. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Any questions or comments, leave it in the comments section below. Bye!
Visit Carolyn'sBloomingCreations.com